do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. You know, the thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Look, it is, the question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay.
What are we going to do now? Good morning, my little pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. Let's have a little free speech while it's still legal here in the United States. What do you say, guys? Hup, 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 hup. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd. How was your Easter? Did you do a little Easter egg hunt? I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday and you guys are all recovering. We had a wonderful weekend. Got to spend some time with the in-laws and my niece and nephew over on Stephanie's side. Came to visit. Mother-in-law had a birthday. We got to celebrate. Drove through the pouring rain to get to Olive Garden. And, well, yada, yada, yada. We were tired the next morning. And finally got a little rest. Overslept. Almost didn't make the show this morning. First time in like 3 years since I've been doing this show. I almost didn't make it, but I'm glad you made it. Nice to see you all over at rumble.com/AP for Liberty, especially Cecilia, especially Barney Styles, especially Grizz Cheese, Amy J. Ease, Liberty Tonight Show. Did you guys make your names rhyme on time? Jose MMA, no. Quest Fanning, what's up, Andy Opperman? How you doing? Latrell L-Dubs, it's good to see you. It's good to see Southcott hanging out from a beautiful Isle of Guernsey. Nice to see you. Or Alderney. Listen. Sorry, it's early and I overslept. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I do have a billion clips. I've got news stories. I've got guests. I'm excited to share with you the points of view of not only the lovely Camelia Peterson, who joins us every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time. We're going to talk a little bit about how DOGE has unfortunately had to downgrade their expectations. Yeah, it went from a $2 trillion push for cuts across the government to now revised down to $150 billion. Yes, listen, I would love to always only report to you the good news, but we like to tell you the truth no matter how bad it hurts. This is Three Dog. Ow! And welcome to the Wake Up America show in the apocalyptic wasteland of the United States of America. We will be going to Washington, D.C. for those who understand the reference, but hopefully there won't be too much fallout hanging out for us over there. Speaking of fallout, if you guys enjoy the Wake Up America show, don't forget Friday nights is the Freedom Arcade. The Wake Up America show is part of a four podcast network called the 4 Liberty Network. So if you see the Liberty Tonight boys over in the chat, make sure you give them a follow as well. Tuesdays and Thursdays are special days on the Wake Up America, or on the 4 Liberty Network, because Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, then that's when you get to see the rockin' Daniela Penstack on Culturama. She is taking back Tomorrow Today on her podcast, Reclaiming American Culture for what is truly American, an American. At rumble.com/Culturama, you can get Daniela Penstack's POV. She's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. Check her out tonight at 7 p.m. Central. And then on Thursday nights, Culturama, same time, 7 p.m., But right after her, you get to hang out with the boys. Let's hear it for the boys at rumble.com/liberty tonight, where the king of all libertarians and Brian Piotr hang out, have a good time, and give you the only late night libertarian talk show with a libertarian bent. There's jokes, there's gags, there's fun. Hang out with the boys at rumble.com/liberty tonight and support the For Liberty Network. Let's do it. Here is the question I care most about regarding DOGE. Will the Fed spend less dollars in 2025 than 2024? Whoops. No. Sorry to say. DOGE saved $150 billion by slashing waste, but DC still ran up $1.3 trillion in debt. Yeah. That's $8,137 per taxpayer this year alone. The problem isn't inefficiency, it's addiction, writes my friend Jeremy Cady. He says Congress needs to stop feeding the beast and start gutting this bloated government now. Cut, slash it. I don't want to be black-pilled. I tend to be the type of person who look on the bright side of life, even as they crucify me. Lots of pop culture references this morning. That's an old school one, though. I wonder what the cross section is in terms of the audience for people who get the Fallout references and the Monty Python Life of Brian references. Did anybody get both? Always look on the bright side of life. Don't forget to click the like button, guys, and support the Wake Up America show and unlock the bonus content. If we raise $75 by the end of the show, then you get to see our awesome new series of Lego mini documentaries, and so far you've unlocked every single one, I believe. So please continue the tradition. Support the For Liberty Network. Your generous contributions go to support the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. And whenever they go to personal use, they usually go for a little bit of extra formula for the baby bottle or a little diaper for the baby. So it's all a good cause over here. You can make a Rumble Rant donation towards that $75 goal. You can also go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. If you go to forlibertyshop.com and you make a purchase during the show, maybe something from our Gulf of America collection, which in my opinion is the greatest accomplishment from the Trump administration. The Gulf of America collection is extremely popular and it'll be fun and funny at the beach. Everybody will be jealous of you. They will have FOMO while you hang out with your beautiful Gulf of America beach towels or tumblers. Get them at forlibertyshop.com. And remember, during the 2-hour live show, if we hit $75 raised either in Rumble Rant donations in the chat at rumble.com, or if you go to forlibertyshop.com and make a purchase, that goes towards the $75 bonus goal as well. So hit us up, and if you're worried about your 401k, you might as well just shut up because you're not in the game and your opinion doesn't matter here. You know, there's only one opinion that matters when it comes to your pocketbook. That's the government's.
Let's keep this real. Donald Trump has plan A, one plan, make America great again. There is no other plan. And the short-term traders or the pundits on TV that are watching Wall Street, look, guys, this is beyond your pay plan. This man is a master at negotiating.
Yes. Thank you for the propaganda. Yes.
The negotiations at global levels that we've never seen before. He's transparent. He's authentic. He knows what he's doing, and he will make America great again. So you guys that are at home and you're worried about your 401k, your IRA, or you traders out there or bankers that are worried about your commissions, just step aside. This is not the time for Monday, quarterbacking. You're not in the game. President Donald Trump is.
You're not in the game.
Underestimated him over and over, and you're doing the same thing this time.
Yeah, if the White House wanted a test of how firing Jerome Powell would go over in the markets, it succeeded. The U.S. stocks and dollar plunged while yields on long-term treasuries climbed after President Trump renewed his attacks on the Federal Reserve chairman. Yeah, it's not just bankers, people who care, or short-term traders who care about their 401ks or their salaries. It is. I don't understand why. In my lifetime, at least, I'm 44 years old. I wonder how close you are in age to me. Why it is that the United States seems to have to drift from one crisis to another. And so many of these crises are man-made. There's so many unforced errors that this government commits in the name of trying to help all of us. And then, of course, when we might complain that perhaps you should keep your goddamn hands off of the economy, no matter what letter you have after your name. If you dare complain, then shut up. You're not in the game. You don't get an opinion. You're not the guy in the arena. Well, guess what? Guess what? We are in the arena over here on the For Liberty Network. We are in the game. Grant Cardone. Wall Street loves the Fed chair, right? This guy, he's like, they would love the Fed chair if he did what Trump wanted, which is to lower interest rates. Why does Donald Trump want the Fed chair to lower the interest rates? Well, he wants them to lower the interest rates because of the fallout from the tariffs that this economy has been reeling from. And people are like, oh, don't look at the short term and all that kind of stuff. But where have we been since this all began, right? Trump's approval rating on the economy drops to lowest of his presidential career. President Trump is registering the worst economic approval numbers of his presidential career amid broad discontent over his handling in tariffs. This is also including inflation and government spending. The survey that was done found that the boost in economic optimism that accompanies his election has disappeared. More Americans now believing the economy will get worse. Well, you need to just shut up. Shut up. You don't have a say in this, right? What are you, some banker, fat cat, trying to collect a paycheck, right? Right? Or what are you, short term in this economy? I'm 88 years old, and I'm still recovering from 2007, and I'm kind of hoping to be able to retire one day, sir. Well, shut up. Shut up. How dare you? Oh, I'm sorry, but what are you, a communist, right? If you don't think that the economy should be able to be controlled by just one person or two people, the president or the Federal Reserve Chair, either one. Let's just give them all the power to determine the outcome of our lives and our salaries and what we take home. But don't worry, subsidies are coming if you're part of a connected industry, right? If you are part of a connected industry in this country, if you're a farmer, but don't worry, you got to be a politically connected farmer. As long as you're politically connected, you'll get the proper handouts, the bailouts for that. Because if you feel the pain from the disequilibrium introduced into the economy, the destabilization policies that we've been undergoing since the beginning of this one, which again, listen, if the economy was destabilizing because DOGE was making cuts or Congress were making cuts, which, by the way, is what we were gaslighted and told when this happened. When we first started this wild whipsaw ride of the economy, this reshaping the economy, it's like, oh, well, when we make cuts and we start to fire all these bureaucrats, well, then there's this reshaping of the economy. There's going to be a little bit of short-term pain. Well, yeah, there might be short-term pain if there were actual cuts that were being made. There might be short-term pain if there were actual fundamental restructuring going on. But the problem is the Trump administration has gotten themselves bogged down in the weeds. They burst out of the gate and then landed right crack into the quicksand, and they're not like, people are there reaching out the hand saying, hey, let's help, right? Elon Musk on a tight deadline, not going to be around forever. Elon Musk, his DOGE mission is on a very tight timeline. There were major promises made of what would be able to be completed from the Department of Government Efficiency. And I'm sorry, but $2 trillion was what we were told, right? Not $150 billion. Elon Musk is supposed to exit government later this year. His influence appears to be waning. The conflicting messages and confusion, of course, going on right now have had a predictable result. Agencies maintain inconsistent patchworks of policies. Some federal agencies have stopped requiring messages that DOGE has done. They're no longer listening to them. Musk is no longer like walking into agencies and shutting them down willy-nilly. Listen, if the Trump administration had kept their eye on the ball with DOGE, I think we would be in a better place right now if they could refocus and recalibrate and stop these distractions from the Department of Defense. Right? First of all, the thing that the Republicans are supposed to do well is the military. That is what the Republicans typically are expected to do well. The border security situation, A+, right? That's what the Trump administration in part was elected to do. Good. They got that under control. But I'm pretty sure most of us, even though we're not these, I guess we're all rich bankers for thinking this, another one was supposed to be the economic prosperity like we had in the Trump administration before COVID-19, the expectation of a prosperous and flourishing economy. Instead, we've hired witch doctors like Peter Navarro to take control of trade policy in the United States. You've taken a Harvard-educated, avowed Hillary Clinton leftist Democrat from Southern California who ran on an agenda of degrowth, not pro-growth, degrowth. Where's Paul Ryan when you need him? I mean, I hear of these people talking shit about Paul Ryan. I saw somebody said yesterday, if Mitt Romney were to suddenly take over as president of the United States, the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ would jump by like some 6,000 points or something. I have no idea. So anyways, I mean, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do, guys? I mean, listen, am I supposed to just, find the bright spots, give you the red meat, never tell you that things are going wrong or that things are amiss, right? My heart and my soul cannot frog march you into the breadlines. I will not be the voice that tells you everything's fine, everything's okay, all is well. Here's another reference for you. All is well. All is well. Let's see. Caddyshack? No. Animal House? Yes. Animal House references. Monty Python references and Fallout references. Where else are you going to get that but on the Wake Up America show? Make sure that you click the like button. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you're not offended by my lack of ass kissing, then click the follow button as well. If you click the follow button, you'll get a notification when we go live, which is every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And if you click that follow button, you'll get that notification. You'll be able to join us live and hang out with a bunch of other free thinkers, actual free thinkers, not people who may have raped people 20 years ago and then say, I'm a free thinker and I'm accepting Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior and everything's wonderful. And by the way, I'm being attacked because they're trying to silence my free speech because I used to be on the left and now I'm on the right. And now, and oh, by the way, they're trying to shut down Candace Owens as well. And by the way, there might be, a Jewish conspiracy here or there. And by the way, if you follow the USS Liberty incident from 1944...
The point of government is to take public money and put it in private hands. The problem with modern media is there are now continual bulwarks. You get rid of Joe Rogan, you got to deal with Candace Owens. You get rid of Candace Owens, you got Ian Carroll. You get rid of Ian Carroll, you got me. You get rid of me, you got to deal with Lex Friedman. You get rid of Lex Friedman, you got to deal with daddy of them all, Alex Jones. How are they going to control, smear, shut down every single one of those pundits? You get rid of Crowder, you get rid of Tim Pool. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? And ultimately, it's more important. You guys are more important. You are the people that matter. So in a way, whatever you talk about in the Rumble chat, you're a Zionist, you're an anti-Semite, it doesn't really make any difference. Even issues as significant as Israel and Israel's power, even issues as significant as the Russia-Ukraine war, even issues as significant as Epstein's power, fade when compared to the spiritual war that I believe we're in now. The point.
Oh, there you go. Well, as long as when you don't have the numbers, when you don't have the facts, you just say, "Oh, well, sorry, the spirit's on my side." Well, good for you, bully for you, sir. The rest of us are busy looking at our 401ks and wondering what the hell is going on over there. I'm not a free thinker, says Clementine. I charge for my thoughts like a good capitalist. I love you guys. You guys rocked. You rocked. Somebody decided this morning to help to unlock that bonus content. I see you over there. You guys are just visiting the shop, aren't you? Drop those Rumble rants, guys. Support the Wake Up America show and unlock the bonus content. We're like now $15 away from unlocking the bonus content. That's a little mini documentary. The grift is real. Actually, it's just a capitalistic exchange, pal. I've got Camelia Peterson, who will join us this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. And I've got a fantastic guest for you this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. I'm very excited to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Bob Burg. He's the author of the international best-selling business parable, The Go-Giver. Sold over 1 million copies and translated into 30 languages, an unapologetic advocate of free market capitalism. His name is Bob Burg. We're going to talk a little bit about the liberty movement, where it stands with the Jewish question, especially in light of Candace Owens taking Harvard University's side. Yes, I'm not kidding. Harvard University's side in the new lawsuit that's been announced against Donald Trump.
Trump administration is fighting against free speech in America. And that is very sad for me to say and to report as someone who has been a supporter of Donald Trump. We cannot allow our rights to be infringed upon. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight. You better hope that they defeat the Trump administration.
No.
This absurd definition. They even include parts of the Bible. They're like, you can't say that the Jews had anything to do with Christ, killing Christ. Which is, you know what that is? It's not anti-Semitism, it's anti-Catholic.
Okay. I didn't realize that, like, it was, is it a core tenet of, do we have any Catholics in the chat? Is it a core part of the Catholic doctrine to focus on the Jews killing Christ? I could have sworn, and I've read the Bible 6 times, and I'm considering going through it for the 7th time just to kind of like refresh. But is it a core teaching of Catholic doctrine that the Jews killed Christ? Because I swear the last time that I read the Bible, it said that the Romans killed Jesus. And I wonder what your thoughts are on this. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman just hit the unlock button on the bonus content. Achievement unlocked. Thanks, guys. We appreciate that. Andy, you're a good man. You're a mensch. You shall sit by the right hand of God in heaven for your support of the principles of liberty. Grizz Cheese says, celebrity death match. Candace Owens and Bill Burr. That would be funny. Who can woke left and woke right? Who can outwoke the wokey? So many grifters, so little time, so many lies, so much BS. And then, of course, you have all of the scandals. And I just wish that, I want the Trump administration to succeed. I want the Republican Party to build on their coalition and to add more Congress members. The best hope that you can, the most white-pilled take you might be able to take for what we are now, is that if Congress really had a Republican majority, say even a supermajority, they might, I say might, and supermajority maybe not, but a majority, a strong majority, perhaps not a supermajority, that maybe that more of them would have some guts to say, okay, we actually do have a mandate. Let's actually make some cuts. Let's make some reforms. Let's put into law some of the things that, to his credit, Donald Trump is trying to get Congress to do. See, I fully believe, Trump not being the ideologue that he is, I fully believe that if Congress were to get their shit together and actually put cuts, real cuts, not spending increases like they have been doing, but real cuts, I believe that Donald Trump would sign a bill that actually had government spending cuts. So in some ways, we can, if you want to, here's a little bit of red meat for you that doesn't offend the base. If we could point a lot of fingers at Congress for the problems that we have right now. But again, the American people being what they are, they tend to blame the president for everything. And that's just unfortunate because most people really don't understand how government works. A new generic congressional ballot showing trends that the Republican Party is not looking like they're in a very good place. You can see here that the Republican Party dropped from 51% in January to 45% in terms of approval. Here we can see the Republican Party has already lost the goodwill that it had coming into office. Now, could the poll be fake? Sure, maybe the economic policy is going to work and Americans may be losing their patience now, but we're only a month or two away from a light at the end of the tunnel. But please do not shoot the messenger for warning that we may be in danger zone if we do not get this economy kickstarted and into high gear. I believe that the president should declare victory in the trade war, take the deals that how many of our allies have said to us that they would drop the tariffs to zero. And the ideologues, I mean, Trump is, unfortunately, he's not an ideologue on anything except for tariffs. The ideologues in the White House, including Trump, they don't seem to understand that if they drop the tariffs, they win. They get a huge victory. Not only for the White House, but for the American people. The economy comes roaring back, but businesses do not like instability. Investors do not like instability. You don't understand how important people are like, oh, it's just Wall Street on this stuff. Well, yeah. And even sometimes people, at least who are a little bit more rational, will say things like, well, our 401ks, or a lot of people have investments in there and their retirements. Okay, but there's that. But I don't think people understand the secondary impact of the policies of chaos, because the investments that are being made into these companies are predicting the future, the future jobs that will be created, the future factories that will or won't be built, right? There is what is seen, and then there is what is unseen. And if for national security purposes, the Trump administration wants to isolate China and to put tariffs on China, right? You could make an argument for something like that from a national security perspective. But Canada, Mexico, Japan, right? Real allies of the United States, no matter how you feel about Canada or Mexico. And I know our positive opinions on many of those countries themselves are waning, but Japan, there's got to be, Israel, they offered 0% tariffs. We can't do 0% tariffs with Israel. No, that would be a sign, like Candace Owen says, we're being controlled. Well, not everybody's loving Candace Owen these days.
I had to unfollow and stop listening to Candace Owens. And I really love Candace, I really do, but she has become very toxic when it comes to anti-Semitism. With her latest comment that Trump is being somehow controlled by Benjamin Netanyahu, which is disrespect to the president, who is a man that is standing by Israel, which any Christian, and it's funny that she claims Christ is king to her, but yet doesn't support Israel. I don't know if she's read the Bible, but the Bible has Jewish people in Israel all through it. So I would suggest that Candace would go through the whole Bible, read it from Genesis to Revelation, and she will understand. I have a few degrees in theology that the Bible is all about Israel.
But have you actually been there, sir? Have you been there?
It's funny she cried, but no, Trump is not being controlled, and I don't know if Candace is even still a Republican. I don't know what Candace is anymore.
Yeah, things have gotten really weird, but don't worry, Russell Brand is here to save us.
Trump administration is fighting against free speech in America. And that is very sad for me to say and to report as someone who has been a supporter of Donald Trump.
See, my thing about the Harvard thing, and they may have overplayed their hand, as Joni Rankin is saying in the chat. My thing in the Harvard thing is that the anti-Semitism stuff is kind of a cover. Harvard was violating the codes of conduct that were in place by allowing the intimidation, the ethnic intimidation on their campuses. That would have never been tolerated. That would have been shut down immediately if a bunch of white kids were harassing Muslims kids or Arab kids or any ethnicity other than Jews. Jews were the only people who it's okay to discriminate against. Jews and white people these days, which a lot of Jews are now starting to wake up to be like, well, it's like, oh, well, hey, wait a minute. I thought we were an ethnic minority. No, you're now white, according to the left and the woke right. But my whole thing with the Harvard fight is that it was really a proxy war that the Trump administration has been waging. Fascinating too, because of course, I'm sure there's plenty of Harvard people other than Peter Navarro that are working at the White House right now. But my thing is that the Harvard was a proxy war against the liberal elite, the leftist intelligentsia. And my hope was that the reform of these institutions would come about due to a careful maneuvering of the White House to restrict the access to federal dollars, which the Trump administration has done. Unfortunately, there appears to have been a bungling of the release of the information that the White House was using as their excuse to withhold, excuse me, funding from Harvard, because the money that was going, or the money that was supposed to go to Harvard, the White House had to have a list of reasons for why they were going to withhold it. And apparently one of the reasons that came out wasn't supposed to go out. The memo that was supposed to go to Harvard went out too early before it had been properly checked and double checked to ensure that it would follow legal guidelines. Well, because somebody accidentally clicked send too early, Harvard found very clear legal grounds with which to defend themselves, and that is why Harvard officially launched the lawsuit against the Trump administration, because someone in the Trump administration accidentally clicked the send email a little too fast, and now Harvard has grounds, because there was a chance, potentially, this is what the Wall Street Journal was reporting, there was a chance potentially that if the Trump administration had not clicked send on that email, and they had sent it perhaps to my buddy Will Scharf sitting there in the executive office, handing him executive orders for review, maybe if Scharf had had a chance to take a look at it before they clicked the send button, if they had done that, then they perhaps could have had time to remove the language which would have given Harvard clear grounds for a lawsuit. Instead, someone over at the White House clicked send too early. I kid you not. It sounds like the plot of like a 1990s play, comedy of errors, Noises Off, if anybody's ever seen it. Carol Channing, Michael Caine. Who's the guy that played Superman in the best Superman movies from the 70s and 80s? Clark Kent. No, God, that's Superman's alter ego. It's been a long time, guys. He ended up in the wheelchair, right? Noises Off. Great, funny movie. Definitely check it out, man. We got a lot of movie references this morning. We're going to have Camelia Peterson join us at 8 a.m. Central Time. At 8:30 a.m. Central Time, we are going to talk to Bob Berg. We're going to talk to him about where the Liberty Movement stands. Christopher Reeves. Thank you, Songaroth. Thank you. Christopher Reeve, yes. Again, almost overslept this morning. So all of these topics, everything that's coming together for one big toxic chemical soup. And it's because the right has not been effectively, I will say, policing its ranks. But I mean, here's the thing. Here's what the problem is with, the Candace Owens, the Russell Brands, a lot of these right-wing influencers, the Benny Johnsons, right? Here's what the problem is, or the Joe Rogans I would throw in. He was famously neutral, but I don't think Joe Rogan is neutral anymore. I think Joe's picked his side. Is that a lot of these right-wing people who claim that they're for free speech, or that they're being silenced or censored or suppressed for their opinions on Israel or the economy or whatever it may be. The problem with this is that the truth here is what the ultimate truth. Are you ready? Kyoku Shinkai. It's Japanese in Japanese. The ultimate truth. Kyoku Shinkai. People want liberty without responsibility. What are you talking about, Austin? Well, they want the freedom of speech without the accountability that comes along with that freedom of speech. They're that you are held accountable to your actions. Because people want liberty without duty or honor or with virtue. It's quite frequently trotted out by usually religious right people that John Adams once famously talked about. The Constitution of the United States and the government that we've given you is for a virtuous people only, and they attribute virtue or they look at it in a religious context. But I see virtue and duty and honor as purely secular concepts that exist, that are universal to our, and intrinsic, tied to our humanity, in much the same way that our concept of rights are, right? And you may suggest that these are metaphysical concepts, but I claim that they are as material as the microphone that I am speaking in right now, as the person that is typing on the keyboard with the screen name C. Songaroth, Luke Sacker, Cecilia H., Quest Fanning, and others, is that this lie, I'll call it a lie, that people are trying to censor or suppress the opinions of Joe Rogan or Candace Owens or Russell Brand, that we are trying to, so maybe Hillary Clinton is, And she said quite clearly, I played the clip like 5 times yesterday, that Hillary Clinton is saying that people maybe should face civil punishment or jail time for their opinions. Yes. Okay. Well, that's not what people like Douglas Murray are saying. That's not what people like Joel Berry at the Babylon Bee are saying. That's not what people like myself are saying over there. But the lie, j'accuse, made against little Japanese and little French this morning. J'accuse. I accuse them of being full of shit. And you being full of shit, me telling you that you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, you're full of shit here, that's not me trying to censor you or shut you down. It's me adding footnotes to the things that you say, because history will not forget the people who stood up to the lies and the bullshit from the left, the right, the mainstream media, the alternative media, the people who had a good head on their shoulders and said, j'accuse le bullshit, right? Le chien. What's the word for shit in French? Merde. Chien merde. There is clearly a coordinated attempt to take down Rogan. See Songbirth. By who? By who? Who's going to take down Joe Rogan? Nobody. He's like Dave Chappelle. He's got FU money. He can do whatever he wants. Who's going to stop him? What, Hillary Clinton? Like, she doesn't even have any power anymore. She's not in government. Right? Who's going to take down Joe Rogan? Right? Nobody. Right? Thomas Massey still out there talking about Apex handlers. He's a member of Congress. You can't touch him. Right? I'm a big Thomas Massey fan, but he said he talks all kinds of shit. He talks all kinds of shit. Nobody's going to shut him down. Right? What are you going to do? Right? He's just going to continue to do the same thing that he's been doing since he got elected back in the Tea Party years. Right? Nobody's going to shut them down. They can say whatever they want, do whatever they want. I think what the problem is that not Thomas Massey, but many of these right-wingers, these Grant Cardones, right? They want to be held to different standards. They want to be held to different standards. This is the problem with, intellectuals and socialism, and it's the pretense of knowledge, right? You'll have someone who may be really, really smart in one area, and they think that applies to everything. You'll see this with Silicon Valley types a lot as well. This idea, like Bill Gates is like a vaccine expert, right? Where it's like, okay, just because you're really good at computers doesn't necessarily make you an expert on vaccines. But even if you're not an expert on vaccines, you know what? I guess just if we go by if we just go by the standards that's being laid out right now, I guess Bill Gates doesn't have to be an expert in vaccines, does it? He's a computer assembler. Remember when Peter Navarro called Elon Musk a computer or a car assembler? Bill Gates, not an expert on vaccines. But why would we trust the experts on vaccines, right, guys? So I guess that means Bill Gates. We should just listen to Bill Gates when it comes to vaccines, right? It's all stupid. It's all retarded. It's all dumb. It's all fake. It's all gay. Gayer than Kanye West, apparently. Did you guys hear about Kanye? Oh, God. Poor Kanye. Remember when those kids say, I want to be like Kanye? I really just don't think that those kids want to be like Kanye anymore. Albino Viper, good to see you. He says, no one said they were going to stop him, just that they are trying. Who's trying? Not the people. Remember, disagreeing with someone or calling them out for their shit is not the same thing as trying to silence them. I remember people doing this like in high school. This is like high school age brain, right? Like, oh, you're disagreeing with me? Well, you're disagreeing with the church, or to disagree with me is to disagree with God. To disagree with me is to disagree with I have a divine right to spew bullshit without being called about it. No, everybody gets questioned. Everybody gets checked. Everybody gets double checked, right? That's the standard. The standard is that none are holy on this earth, that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of reason and science and logic and truth. Everybody has to get checked. Everybody, even your favorite right-wing commentator. Call me out. It happens a million times a day. Nobody's gonna, I don't think of being silenced, right? Other than the suppression that I have experienced on social media. Mark Zuckerberg, you could say, oh, okay, I'm being silenced by Mark Zuckerberg, but these are some of the biggest talk show personalities on the right. So they're not being suppressed by social media. They're being aided and abetted. It's just like this. Once you get past a certain point with power and influence and money, you can do whatever the fuck you want. But you play the victim. You pretend to be a victim. Oh no, woe is me as I dry my eyes with dollar bills, right? You know, it's a lie. They're fine, right? Hillary Clinton can't touch them. Right now, with Russell Brand, you know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, and he should be given the benefit of the doubt on that, especially because the accusations, like the Kavanaugh accusations, come from things years and years and years ago. But we all know what Russell Brand was before he became one of us. So there's reason for skepticism. There's reason to assume that people like Candace or Russell or Benny Johnson or others, right, when you see hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars coming in from Russian dollars, we don't know where the money came from. When you see, when you see them circling the wagons, that sometimes, did you know that when you see smoke, that sometimes that means fire? That means that there's fire, right? And here's the problem, that as the society, as America, the American people, the normies, the people who are on the margins are watching what's going on right now, right? They're seeing the chaos. They're seeing their 401ks being hammered. They're seeing the incompetency. They shift their favors back to the left. They shift. I mean, here's the thing we do not need is we do not need to put Hillary Clinton and her party back in power. If you want to see true censorship campaigns, let the left come back, right? Let the tariffs continue the damage that are the chaos. Don't call out any of the bullshit from the proto-Nazis on the podcast. Don't just continue to allow them to spew their horseshit willy-nilly, unchecked, unquestioned, right? Because to question is to silence, right? And then let the country just swing right back to the left. Back comes DEI. Back comes the ESG. Mark Zuckerberg is going to sit on my ass for sure as soon as it's politically advantageous for him to do so. All of that is gone. You want to talk about censorship or suppression, right? Hand this country back to the Democrats, and then it will be, as you say, right? But don't fall for the bullshit. Don't fall for the bullshit, right? Read, question, study, right? Look at what the experts are saying. Question them. Look at what the alternative ideas are saying. Question them. Question everyone. Question everything. Think for yourself. Be willing to call out bullshit when it's on your own team, even when they have an R after their name. Do you treat your friends like you treat your enemies? No, absolutely not. Of course you don't, right? But you still make sure that you hold your friends accountable to the standards on which you put yourself in, the things that are the things that are those traits which are virtuous. Where's my copy of Aristotle? God, I was just the other day I cracked my Nicomachean Ethics, right? So I can ask myself, why are things good? What are we doing this for? Why am I here? Right? You think I'm podcasting for money? You think I'm doing this because it's a lucrative career? Because I can assure you that for most of us, it's not. It's a tenuous career at best. First of all, I do this because I love this, right? And I love hanging out with you guys, and I love talking about these things. I'm very passionate about these things, but I could absolutely make more money going to work, running some factory and streamlining some processing with AI for some corporation and just shut up forever and do all this kind of stuff. I do this, guys, because of ethics, right? Ethics. Oh, here we go. Why do we do this? Right? Because when life is over, the legacy that you leave behind is all there is. You can't take the money with you. You can't take it with you. Right? Eudaimonia. Aristotle argued the ultimate goal, the ultimate human goal is eudaimonia, right? And this is often translated into like happiness. I prefer the term flourishing. It's not fleeting pleasure, not take your drugs, drink your coffee, smoke a cigarette, have sex, short-term, hedonistic pleasures, but a deep, fulfilling life achieved through living well and realizing your potential. Eudaimonia. Let's take it back old school. You want to get old school? Let's talk about Aristotle. Virtue ethics. Unlike rule-based system, follow these 10 commandments. No. There's another movie reference. Aristotle focuses on character. A good life comes from cultivating virtues, traits like courage, honesty, and wisdom. We don't let the D students run the show, right? Wisdom. Virtues are habits that you develop through practice. These are not innate qualities. No one is born wise. No one is born courageous. No one is born honest. No one. We are all fallen in the sense. Virtues are habits that we must develop, and you must practice these virtues. It's like riding a bicycle or exercise or any kind of trait that you want to hold, like that you would consider to be a virtue. In order to be courageous, you must be courageous. In order to be honest, you must be honest. In order to be wise, you must engage and participate in intellectual pursuits that will eventually arrive you at a place where you may be wise. Wisdom to me is like patriotism, though. We do have a critical thinking problem in this country, and whoever Tabaloo is, it's nice to see, or Labaloo, Label W, says we have a critical thinking problem in this country, which led to the cultist culture. Yes, whoever you are, Label you are in the right place. This is a show for you. You would love this show. If you haven't hit the follow button yet, please click it and come back and join us 5 days a week. You're among friends. There's the cult of free thinkers, and you're here. Wizard Greg says, great show. Glad I could be here. Glad to see it. I love it. Morning chat. Good morning, Relaxium. What other talk shows in the morning are you going to hear somebody talking to you about the Nicomachean ethics and virtues, right? What other libertarian shows are even going to talk about things like virtues or ethics or things like that? They're all going to talk about the non-aggression principle. Well, who aggressed against in Israel? We'll get to a lot of that stuff later. But let's talk about the golden mean. Virtue lies in balance, or the mean between extremes. For example, courage is the mean between cowardice, which is too little bravery, and recklessness, too much bravery, right? Getting yourself killed, falling on your sword. Every virtue finds this sweet spot, right? Tailored to whatever situation that you find yourself in. And how do we get ourselves to what Aristotle called phrenesis, which is practical wisdom? To live virtuously, you need phrenesis, which is practical wisdom. This is the ability to make judgments, sound judgments about what's good in specific contexts. And this is where people fail, because context does matter, right? People are like, well, I should be consistent across context. Well, you should be consistently wise across different contexts, which might require different behavior in different contexts. Oh, well, then you shall be sure to be misunderstood. Is it so terrible to be misunderstood? Is every great and good and pure creature on this planet, have they not been understood? Well, Euripides, Pythagoras, Jesus of Nazareth, were they not understood? To be great is to be misunderstood. Ethical street smarts. Practical wisdom is ethical street smarts. Write this down, guys. Take some notes. Don't spill it out your coffee, okay? Put down the coffee real quick. Grab yourself a little notepad, right? We're talking about Aristotle. We're talking about virtues, right? This is how you get out of the cults. This is how you escape from binary thinking. This is, if we're going to take it back to BC here that we're talking this morning, the Bible and Aristotle, let's take it back to Plato. Does anybody remember Plato's allegory of the cave? Does everybody understand the prisoner's dilemma, right? You could compare this, another movie reference, to The Matrix. Have you taken the red pill, right? But did you take the whole bottle? Right? Some people think that they're outside of the cave, but they've only really gotten to a bright spot in the cave, and you still must continue your path out of the cave. How do we engage? How do we develop practical wisdom? Think about this as like growing fruit or vegetables in your garden. Do you water it and then it just pops up the next day full of strawberries? It doesn't. You have to take care of it. You have to maintain it. You have to remove the weeds. It's hard, Austin. I have to do something every day. Yes. Wisdom is like a muscle. It is. How many people are going to talk to you about this morning? Click the like button on the Wake Up America Show's stream if you haven't already. Where else are you going to get this information? Practical wisdom. Think of it like ethical street smarts, knowing how to apply virtues in real life. That's wisdom. What about the role of community? I'm a hyper-individualist, but humans are social creatures. A good life involves friendships, civic engagement, and contributing to the common good. Isolation or selfishness undermines eudaimonia. This is Aristotle. Aristotle's ideas push us to reflect on our character, our choices, and how we contribute to society. What are you doing to help contribute to leave the world a little bit better than you found it? In a world that's obsessed with instant gratification, Kanye, Nicomachean ethics reminds us that true happiness comes from long-term growth and balance. So, Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics isn't about chasing quick wins. It's a guide to building a life of purpose, balance, and virtue, where true happiness comes from becoming your best self. Eudaimonia! Eudaimonia! If you're loving the Wake Up America show, you're going to love the bonus content. You just unlocked it. It's a Lego mini documentary. LaBelle W, stick around. My next guest is going to be amazing. The next guest after that, even more amazing. It's the Wake Up America show. We'll be right back. Last time the government got a new surveillance toy, we got the Patriot Act. This time we're giving it artificial intelligence, with zero oversight and a blank check. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome to the intelligence community's AI revolution, where agencies like the CIA and NSA are racing to build machine learning surveillance systems faster than Congress can schedule a hearing, which frankly isn't saying much. The CIA's new toy is called Osiris, named after the Egyptian god of the underworld. You know, just in case the branding didn't already give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. Osiris is an AI system that scours massive amounts of open-source data, social media, articles, random online content, and then helpfully summarizes what it finds. And if that sounds harmless, keep in mind that even the CIA's own tech chief described it as being like a crazy drunk friend. That's a real quote. We've now got drunken robot sidekicks advising one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. The NSA, of course, isn't sitting this one out. This is the agency that already vacuumed up your phone calls, emails, texts, and your aunt's Facebook memes back in the post-9/11 surveillance boom. Now, they're using AI to do it faster, bigger, and with even less transparency. When civil liberties groups asked what the NSA's AI systems are actually doing, they got stonewalled, which, let's be honest, is kind of their brand. It doesn't stop there. DHS is using AI-enhanced drones at the border. The Defense Intelligence Agency is using AI to flag threats at rates far beyond what human analysts can keep up with. Which sounds cool until you realize the entire intelligence apparatus is now built on machine learning systems we don't understand, can't audit, and aren't allowed to question. And while all this is happening behind the curtain, our elected officials are just now starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, it's not a great idea to feed sensitive data into black box algorithms with no accountability. One congressman even warned federal agencies to stop uploading classified info into public AI tools. Because apparently someone in the Department of Homeland Security thought ChatGPT was a secure place to drop intel. We've seen this story before. The script doesn't change. The government gets a new tool, swears it's just for emergencies, and the next thing you know, it's scanning every American's email inbox for patterns. Remember when the Patriot Act was supposed to only go after terrorists? Yeah. Then it got used to snoop on financial records, drug cases, and petty crimes, all without a warrant. Now we're supercharging that same mentality with AI. Today it's scanning foreign TikToks. Tomorrow, it's predicting pre-criminal behavior based on your grocery store receipts and Spotify playlists. Sound crazy? It should. But it's not that far-fetched when the algorithms are trained on massive data sets and nobody's allowed to question the results. And if you get flagged, good luck. You won't get a phone call. You'll just start noticing odd things. Your flights get delayed. You get pulled aside at TSA. Your bank flags your purchases. No one can quite say why, because even the people running these systems don't fully understand how the AI came to its conclusion. It's like being placed on a secret no-fly list created by a caffeinated Roomba.
Meanwhile, the public is left in the dark. No hearings, no disclosures, no debates. Just press releases about responsible innovation and ethical frameworks, all while these agencies strap artificial intelligence onto surveillance networks the size of continents. Let's be real. There are legitimate uses for AI. Nobody's arguing that we shouldn't use technology to help track down actual threats. But when you give the government a powerful tool with no leash, history shows us exactly what they'll do with it. They'll point it inward. We've gone from "in God we trust" to "in algorithms we obey." And the scary part is the algorithm never has to testify. So yeah, maybe it's time to take a breath before we let a neural network with clearance levels start predicting who's a dissident based on search history and sarcasm levels on Twitter. Thanks for watching. If you like the kind of commentary that actually pushes back on this government tech creep with a little common sense and a whole lot of fire, check out what we've got going on at forlibertyshop.com. We've got merch that stands for freedom, mocks surveillance state nonsense, and helps fund content that doesn't ask permission to speak plainly. That's forlibertyshop.com, because the only thing faster than government AI overreach should be your shipping confirmation. See you next time.
Good morning. Rise and freedom, my little Aristotelians. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Aristotelians, is that like the reptilians? They're coming to take us over? Wait. Candace Owens conversation coming up later. The Jews, the USS Liberty, the Libertarian Movement, Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray, all that. Just holding off. We'll put that towards the end. Maybe a question towards the end of the lovely Camellia Peterson segment. She's joining us now to talk about the other reptilian problem we have in government. Camellia Peterson. Good morning, CJ. How you doing?
Good morning. Did you just say I'm the reptilian problem?
No. The other reptilian content. So yes. You were just saying that during the break, and I'm feeling the same way too. It's hard. We have to be careful not to get blackpilled. But looking at DOGE revising their estimates and cuts from 2 trillion to 150 billion, that was kind of the only hope that I really had after this. So I guess Ross, free Ross. We got Ross freed, I guess. Yeah. I don't. What else? What else we got?
Like, I do think that we also made some strides in undoing some of this DEI nonsense, right, in the agencies and things like that. So I think that is a positive. But I do there's obviously not been quite enough done as far as weeding out problematic people within the agencies. When you look at all the back and forth there's been between Pam Bondi and the DOJ and whatever, and as far as the things they said they were going to do, actually getting them done. There is there's always the campaign promises, right? But I think that part of the appeal in this time, and especially the appeal that I think got Trump so many of the centrist votes, was that there was that hope, that feeling of hope. And it feels like the administration itself has stopped conveying that. They've stopped giving that hopeful vibe off, because it's just kind of been like, here, we're going to give you all of this. Oh, maybe not. It's going to be a lot longer.
Well,
and then you're going to get a little bit.
They realize
right?
they kind of bit off more than they could chew. It may seem, because I see Songroth in the chat. He says, where were the perp walks we promised? I mean, you and I, we're going to talk about the fiscal question here, but there's still, what's going on with the Department of Justice? What's going on with the FBI, for example, where we kind of expected that there was going to be some real shakeups and revolutions. We don't even have the Epstein list. So, I mean, there's just, listen, I manage my expectations. I never expected a libertarian in the cabinet, right? I knew that, I never, believed that all of the grand promises, that I didn't think that Ukraine was going to end on day one. But it's hard to not be, feel disheartened when you have those things happening also with a shaky economy. And that's kind of how we're looking with the problems that we have with the trade issues going on.
Right. And, this is something that just has popped into my head a few times lately that I keep thinking about, that one of the things that really appealed to me that Trump had talked about just kind of on a national level was this celebration that we were supposed to have it's 2026, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it was supposed to be this big grand affair. And I'm thinking right now, are we really going to get that? Because like it's like a year away basically, and I don't know how you can prepare all that. And I feel like something like that, I feel like we need that.
Yeah, I do too.
As a nation, right? And so like that, I just keeps coming to mind because like I'll be really disappointed if we don't have that happen, and I don't see it being able to happen at this point. Like they would have had to have been making preparations for that from day one, honestly.
If that's the only thing that the Trump administration had focused on was just having a national celebration, and everything was just focused on like, you know, if the Trump administration, instead of like posting anime photos of illegal immigrants that they're detaining and talking smack, if they had just been like, oh, we're posting about Paul Revere and his midnight rides, 250 years since Paul Revere and the shot heard around the world, and they sort of jumped on that train, it would have been, I think, not easy to unify Americans, but like everybody would have done. Here's the thing. I think it was Confucius who said that a great leader organizes things in such a way that all of the people look back and say, look, we did it ourselves, right? We would all be doing our jobs, going about our daily work, not thinking about the presidency, not thinking about our 401ks, not thinking about the problems with China and Mexico and Canada and hating on Canadians and all this kind of stuff. It's just, we're so distracted now. I don't know how we sort of like heal the wounds. You've brought up a good point, Camelia. I mean, I really don't know what to do.
So our senator, Eric Schmidt, who I really love, and I think he walks a fine line. I think he has a lot of influence right now at the federal level. And, you know, everybody's talking about future President J.D. Vance when we could actually have Eric Schmidt and he would be like 10 times better. But he said in a speech not too long ago that the greatest threat to tyranny is hope. And I think that is, you know, and also you've probably heard that saying that people will not remember what you do or say, they will remember how you made them feel. And, you know, I think part of what you say is, you know, how people feel. But I think that's part of the problem in the administration right now is that they are like, it's been such a constant barrage of like memeing from the official accounts, and they're like putting out all of this stuff, and there's just like, there's so much rhetoric, like they can't just be quiet. Like you have what's the guy, Navarro and whoever else, like coming out, and they're just talking too much. Like everything changes, like every 24 hours they're out there on the news saying something different, and that does not instill hope in people. And so say less, and, you know, put out a really, I mean, to me, there's a huge difference in individual politicians, you know, shit posting online or whatever. Like, I'm kind of okay with that, right? But there's a difference between that and an official government agency account, and especially the White House account, putting out content like that. Like, we need to have that. Like, there is something to be said for the sacredness of the office, and the professionalism that goes. I think that
maybe sacred is the wrong word, but I will say that I agree with you to a certain extent. You know, I struggle with empathizing with the more female view of the presidency, which is, you know, to want decorum and to want order and all those things. And I think that when it comes to the White House, that the president's strategy of blitzkrieg to an extent, right, I think is absolutely justified in the beginning. And I think, you know, in terms of the first 100 days, that it really was looking good, right? You know, got a lot of cabinet picks across the finish line very quickly. A lot of people were on board. But when you start messing with people's money, and when you start, and then when people having their money messed with, and then they're also sort of like, you know, they're seeing all of these other things kind of, you know, J.D. Vance is assassinating the Pope. Just kidding. Just kidding.
The memes have been great.
The memes have been great. J.D. stands for Just Killed the Pope Vance. Yeah, I've been enjoying those. But, you know, I don't want the country to turn back to the left, right? The thing that you said earlier, and I don't mean to be blackpilled, but what you said earlier, and which Mark Kernke over in the chat needs to know, is that this country could turn back to DEI and ESG, right? So the problem is that, you know, we're sort of we're sort of left holding the bag when Trump leaves, because the only reason Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and so many of these people have been coming on board the Donald Trump train is because they think they're making bets on that's just where the country is going. But in many ways, the country has been like snowballing towards the left for decades and decades and decades. One presidency with executive orders alone is not enough to undo the damage that the left is causing. We need Congress. So what I mean, in many ways, again, you can't really blame the White House for a lot of these problems because honestly, I'm going to say it right now. I think the biggest problem is Congress. Is that and that's not to just like try and be a shill for Trump or anything here. Again, we're calling him out when we disagree with him. But the biggest problem in my mind is that Congress won't get their butts in gear and pass some of these cuts. Do you agree?
No, 100%. Like we have the 2017 Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that saved businesses and individuals so much money over the last several years, and it's set to expire this year. And they still haven't passed what they need to do to extend that. And like that will be devastating if those aren't extended. So there are things like that have to be taken care of. But yet we're spending all this time being distracted with people like, the Luna lady, with having your kids, when or taking, maternity time off. I mean, there's all of these things that are just distractions from the things that need to be done. And we have this is the same thing as the first administration. We have a very limited amount of time for Congress to act. And I am very concerned about 2026. Like, I think that, I don't know, I think that we could turn it around if the administration struck the right tone. And I think, and people can say, the rhetoric doesn't matter or whatever, but the rhetoric really does matter. It's why do you think that, in the context of Ronald Reagan's time, when things were so bad, and, the actual things that they got done were, maybe not everything that we would have ever wanted, but it was the rhetoric that brought people together nationally and allowed
it was positive
that much progress to be made.
Exactly. It was, once the assassination attempt went down last year, the mood, I felt like the national mood changed. Yes. Everybody was like, everybody who is sane, everyone who is sane in this country was relieved. Were there plenty of people in this country who wished that he had died? There were, yes. Was that a majority of people in this country? Absolutely not. A very vocal and loud psychotic minority of Luigi. It's like the Taylor Lorenz, Luigi Mangione left, right? They were upset about it, right? But they aren't the majority. They're just the violent terrorists who punch above their weight because of their willingness to do violence on our behalf. But the national mood changed exactly as you have stated it here, Camille. And after the attempted assassination went down, and then another assassination attempt, I think Trump's election was a foregone conclusion. And God bless it, the United States seemed, even rhetorically, like you say, to be in the right place at the right time. But there absolutely is a darkness that has emerged in recent weeks that I think is unnecessary. It's unforced errors. They need to hire your ass, get up there in DC. And because you are sunshine and rainbows, I honestly, Camellia, one of the things I really love about you is that I think kind of like me, and maybe this is what I see, like this quality that we share. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but praise you and say that you're really good at seeing the bright spot in like troubled times. Like I've always been really good. I think it's finding silver linings in clouds. But I think the thing I appreciate about you is that you really are able to find the positive things and work through them and to lay a course for the future. So I tell you what, I'm going to imbue you with immense power. I'm going to clothe you with immense power and give you the ring of power. What would you do if you were the Trump White House? Let's say you're Will Scharf's job, or maybe you're Carolyn Leavitt, the press secretary. Maybe that'd be a better job for you. What would you advise the president in terms of the course of action to take right now? What would you do to get things back on track, get them optimistic? What would be Camelia's plan of action?
So I think one of the things I would do would be to control better for the things that start to get blown out of proportion. The The guy that the MS-13 guy that was, deported or whatever. Okay, so yeah, is this a thing that we can fight about and say, oh, he deserved it, whatever? Okay, yes. Like, are they right? Okay, so maybe so. But the fact that they are flouting it and they are allowing it to be a big deal. Like, honestly, the trade-off would have been worth it to bring that one guy back and give him his due process. And you don't have to make a big show of it, but you just do it so that you take away that ammunition and you still end up at the same conclusion of deporting him, but you take that out of their arsenal of things that they can hit you with, and you start really highlighting all of the positive things that are coming out of this. And I don't know what you do with the yo-yo trade stuff. He needs better advisors. This is what's right.
Yeah. But I mean,
think, that's part of it.
Luke Sacker called me out for that question. He says that's a very Miss America question. Okay, true. But if Camellia wasn't a Miss America contest and that was the final question, she would win. I ask her because I value her opinion. I mean, you've risen through the ranks here in Missouri on state level politics, from a grassroots activist now to leading one of the most libertarian organizations in the state, one of the most active organizations here in the state. She works for Americans for Prosperity, and she tries to bring liberty to the local level. And so Camellia, her take is actually really valid on things like that. So it's not just, what would I do if you had to help the people of Iraq? Well, you would give them maps because the children of Iraq don't have maps, such as. No, Camellia has based takes that we listen to.
So I think, one of the things that I have really learned in my time in politics, I'm not in politics for, a long, long time or anything. It's been 6 or 7 years, right? That have really been kind of in neck deep. But one of the things I've learned is that so much comes back to marketing. It's so much of it is psychological. And I think that that's where this administration tends to fail a lot of times, is that they're failing to have their finger on the pulse of the people. And they had it there for a little while, like you said, during that certain point in the campaign. And I think it's really important that they find that again in order to go forward to 26. I think we have no hope for 26 if we don't find that again. But I also think, too, that this kind of drives home the point about how important getting your ducks in a row at the state level is. Because, I mean, we were talking before the segment started off air that, everybody's like, I need a hero, right? And I think that's a very human tendency, is everybody wants a hero to come in and save us, but also no one is coming to save you. So get your ducks in a row at home.
Oh, God. Well, there is nobody that is going to come to save us. But I mean, there are good people who are out there who are actually trying to bring a change. We work with them. We meet them all the time. They're not the most powerful people. They don't have the loudest voices, but there are good people who are citizen Republicans who are trying to make America free and trying to protect us from evil and from malign forces on left or on right. And I definitely count you among those.
And I think people should not underestimate too that however small their part is, that doesn't make a difference. Everybody has a part to play, and you can't we don't have the 30,000 foot view. We can't see how all of that ends up working together, but it does. It does. And you get people like Will Scharf, from Missouri, in what is a pretty powerful position in the White House administration. And, Will is not a flashy, out there kind of guy, but he's in the middle of everything. Mm-hmm. And so there are those people there, and he's one of them, just as one example. And like I said, everybody has their little part to play. So that's, there's your white pill. Do your part.
Yeah, there it is. Camellia, I really appreciate your time this morning. We thank you for getting up early. It's nice to see you here on the show, and we love having you on every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time on the Wake Up America show. So for those who are tuning in now, if you really enjoy Camellia, make sure that you join us on her regular spot so that you can never miss her Miss America takes. She would definitely win the pageant at 8 a.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Camellia, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we let you go today, our friend?
No, other than just everybody keep doing your part. And you kept talking about Miss America. It just reminds me, this is totally off topic, but it just reminds me that sometimes you just need to give the answer in those the frank answer in those Miss America questions. I saw a video the other day where they asked this one contestant like what she could do if she could just do anything, and she was like, "I would eat all of the things. I would eat all of the things all of the time." Like, yeah. So say we all. We want to do all of the things, but for the sake of what needs to get accomplished, we use some restraint and do what needs to be done.
Camelia Peterson, she is the best guest. She's been here with us from the very beginning. She's a supporter of the Wake Up America show, and she's fantastic. Thank you, Camelia, for your generosity and being with us this morning, for your time. We look forward to talking to you on Thursday morning. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. The thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Look, it is... The question is, what are we going to do now?
Oh! What are we going to do now? Good morning, my little pineapples.
Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
Support the Wake Up America show, guys, by clicking that like button. It's totally free. Just to click the like button. If you're a furry, then lick that like button. If you can't use your paws, then just use your tongue. Lick the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, just FYI, we are 5 days a week. Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. So if you want to get notifications when we go live, instead of trying to have to remember the schedule, just click the follow button over at rumble.com/AP4Liberty. If you do, then you'll get a notification on your mobile app, which will let you know when we go live. We would love to have you be that regular guest. Everybody's still talking about the Douglas Murray, Joe Rogan, Dave Smith debate, and we're having a conversation about what it means to be an expert. Should you trust an expert? Should you trust the retards? Should you trust the libertarians? Should you trust the Palestinians? Should you trust Douglas Murray? He's a neocon, they say. Douglas Murray's still talking about the interview, having conversations about where the American right is in terms of their mental acuity. This is a conversation that he had a few days ago in reaction to the interview that he had on, I guess, debate, which he wasn't prepared to have a debate, but...
I mean, Joe's a friend, and I was trying to be gentle with him about what I regard as being a dangerous tilt that he and some other podcasters are encouraging. What I really maybe should have said then, can now, is that everybody recognizes expertise in the areas they know about. And for instance, if you had gone on Joe Rogan and sought to spend 3 hours talking about MMA fighting,
wouldn't be very convincing.
That's my guess. I mean, it may surprise me, but I would think that quite early on he would work out that you didn't really know what you were talking about. And if you said, hey, I never said I'm an MMA expert, I just want to keep talking about it.
Imagine if I was not a martial arts instructor with 20 years of karate under my belt, and I took an Aikido class once, and I started an MMA podcast. If people started to call me out, would you consider that to be censorship? Would you say that if someone called me out on my bullshit, would you if someone was calling me out and saying, hey, also, you don't really know what you're talking about, and maybe people shouldn't listen to me because, voluntarily not listen to me. Would I say that I was being suppressed and censored in order to garner sympathy? Of course I would. Yes, because I'm trying to protect my livelihood. If I had one of the biggest shows in the world about martial arts and I knew dick about martial arts, I would just, in order to protect my paycheck, maybe I wouldn't because I have Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics, virtue, honesty, giving back to the community. But, in general, there's a very strong incentive to lie. There's not a lot of incentive to tell the truth. That's the conversation that I was having with my friend Bob Berg, who is an author. He is a storyteller. He is, I think, a libertarian. I didn't really ask him because I don't really ask questions like that anymore because I really don't care about what labels people give to themselves anymore because I really don't think that it matters a whole lot. We will be using a lot of labels in our conversation, though, just for frames of reference so everybody can be on board and on the same topic. Bob Berg, his first time joining me on the Wake Up America show from Jupiter, Florida, the lovely jewel in America's crown, that is Florida. Bob Berg, he's a jewel himself, joining us live to talk about Candace Owens, conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, Israel, and the libertarian movement. It's going to get spicy. Oy vey. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Last time the government got a new surveillance toy, we got the Patriot Act. This time we're giving it artificial intelligence, with zero oversight and a blank check. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome to the intelligence community's AI revolution, where agencies like the CIA and NSA are racing to build machine learning surveillance systems faster than Congress can schedule a hearing, which frankly isn't saying much. The CIA's new toy is called Osiris, named after the Egyptian god of the underworld. Just in case the branding didn't already give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. Osiris is an AI system that scours massive amounts of open source data, social media, articles, random online content, and then helpfully summarizes what it finds. And if that sounds harmless, keep in mind that even the CIA's own tech chief described it as being like a crazy drunk friend. That's a real quote. We've now got drunken robot sidekicks advising one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. The NSA, of course, isn't sitting this one out. This is the agency that already vacuumed up your phone calls, emails, texts, and your aunt's Facebook memes back in the post-9/11 surveillance boom. Now, they're using AI to do it faster, bigger, and with even less transparency. When civil liberties groups asked what the NSA's AI systems are actually doing, they got stonewalled, which, let's be honest, is kind of their brand. It doesn't stop there. DHS is using AI-enhanced drones at the border. The Defense Intelligence Agency is using AI to flag threats at rates far beyond what human analysts can keep up with. Which sounds cool until you realize the entire intelligence apparatus is now built on machine learning systems we don't understand, can't audit, and aren't allowed to question. And while all this is happening behind the curtain, our elected officials are just now starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, it's not a great idea to feed sensitive data into black box algorithms with no accountability. One congressman even warned federal agencies to stop uploading classified info into public AI tools. Because apparently someone in the Department of Homeland Security thought ChatGPT was a secure place to drop intel. We've seen this story before. The script doesn't change. The government gets a new tool, swears it's just for emergencies, and the next thing you know, it's scanning every American's email inbox for patterns. Remember when the Patriot Act was supposed to only go after terrorists? Yeah. Then it got used to snoop on financial records, drug cases, and petty crimes, all without a warrant. Now we're supercharging that same mentality with AI. Today it's scanning foreign TikToks. Tomorrow, it's predicting pre-criminal behavior based on your grocery store receipts and Spotify playlists. Sound crazy? It should. But it's not that far-fetched when the algorithms are trained on massive data sets and nobody's allowed to question the results. And if you get flagged, good luck. You won't get a phone call. You'll just start noticing odd things. Your flights get delayed. You get pulled aside at TSA. Your bank flags your purchases. No one can quite say why, because even the people running these systems don't fully understand how the AI came to its conclusion. It's like being placed on a secret no-fly list created by a caffeinated Roomba. Meanwhile, the public is left in the dark. No hearings, no disclosures, no debates. Just press releases about responsible innovation and ethical frameworks, all while these agencies strap artificial intelligence onto surveillance networks the size of continents. Let's be real. There are legitimate uses for AI. Nobody's arguing that we shouldn't use technology to help track down actual threats. But when you give the government a powerful tool with no leash, history shows us exactly what they'll do with it. They'll point it inward. We've gone from "in God we trust" to "in algorithms we obey." And the scary part is the algorithm never has to testify. So yeah, maybe it's time to take a breath before we let a neural network with clearance levels start predicting who's a dissident based on search history and sarcasm levels on Twitter. Thanks for watching. If you like the kind of commentary that actually pushes back on this government tech creep with a little common sense and a whole lot of fire, check out what we've got going on at forlibertyshop.com. We've got merch that stands for freedom, mocks surveillance state nonsense, and helps fund content that doesn't ask permission to speak plainly. That's forlibertyshop.com, because the only thing faster than government AI overreach should be your shipping confirmation. See you next time. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep.
Okay, actually, it doesn't say that.
In the Bible, it says that there will be a group of people who call themselves the chosen people of Yah, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Charlie, we live in the end times. Trump works
I mean, I can't agree with that. So let me ask you, since you believe we live in the end times, what do you think? Do you think the modern creation of Israel is fulfillment of biblical prophecy?
It is not.
Okay, then we disagree. Then what do you think it is?
It is a satanic agenda to push a new world order. That's why they were fought in the 1940s. World War II was fought not over what everyone thought it was fought of. Every war is fought by, it is funded by the rich, the Rockefellers, all the rich, the Rothschilds.
Okay, so yeah, let me ask you a question.
They funded all those wars.
Was Hitler bad?
I think Hitler was bad, yes. Hitler was bad, yes. But
did the Holocaust happen?
The Holocaust did happen.
How many people died?
Not 6 million.
How many?
It was not 6 million.
How many?
I don't have an exact number, Charlie. I don't have an exact.
The cringe. Yikes! Sorry to do that to you first thing in the morning, guys. Good morning, friends. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. It's the Jews. It's always the Jews. We're so glad to have you here. Oy vey. This has just really been a painful conversation that we've been having. And usually the conversations start on the internet and then they start to bleed out over into the real world. I'm not sure if this podcast is considered the real world. Maybe it's not, but we're going to have a conversation about it anyway. Whether the Jewish question in the libertarian ranks. For 25 years, I've been pushing libertarian ideas, the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty, and have just been so disappointed to see so many people who claim to believe so many of the same things that I believe, just getting caught in not just ideological traps, but in logical traps of reason. They have been fighting to get out of Plato's cave, but they've just been prisoners all along. And whether it's Plato or whether it's Aristotle or whether it's my next guest, here on the Wake Up America show, we're going to call out the lies, the slander, the libel, the bullshit on the Wake Up America show. Bob Burg is the co-author of the international best-selling business parable, The Go-Giver. He sold over 1 million copies, translated it into 30 languages. He's an unapologetic advocate of free market capitalism. Let's give a hell yeah and a big welcome to Bob Burg. Subscribe to his daily impact email at burg.com, B-U-R-G. Berg.com. Berg. What kind of last name is Berg? Let's see what his agenda is. Good morning, Bob. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning, Austin. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure you could probably hear that clip, right? The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the cabal of international Jews that are conspiring against this. Henry Ford famously wrote an introduction to the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. So many people who I've known for years and years have been spouting these conspiracy theories. And Bob, when people like myself call it out, we're in on it. What's your take on all of this? This kind of Candace Owens trending right now on the right. She's taking up Harvard's side against Donald Trump because, you know, she claims it's an attack on free speech. There's a lot to unpack here. Douglas Murray, Joe Rogan. Big picture, Bob, what's your take? Hello? All of that set up and then he disappears. Good morning, pineapple. Are you there, Bob?
Austin, yeah, I lost you for about 10 seconds. But
No problem.
I heard you say what's your take on it, and then I lost you. But if we're back on, yeah. Well, first of all, in answer to your to an earlier question, my grandfather's name was Hollenberg when they escaped persecution in Russia, and the name got slashed to Berg. So yeah, Russian immigrants on all sides, and God bless America. Because,
amen.
No, they may not have been treated with open arms, but I'll tell you what, we had an opportunity, and my ancestors had.
Absolutely.
For living in America. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on. You're still on.
Okay.
It looks like we had a little bit of a slowdown, but just keep talking, Bob. We're recording. You're fine.
But you know what? For whether you want to say 1,600 years or for the last couple thousand years, yeah, it's always been about the Jews. And you know something? It's just how it is. And I'm not one of these people. I don't claim victimhood or anything like that. It's just how it's always been. We were accused of poisoning the wells that caused the Black Plague. And, you know, if you study any kind of Jewish history, which most people haven't, and I don't blame them if they're not Jewish, you know, but you see that there's been a whole lot that we're typically blamed for.
Yeah, I was raised in a Protestant family, so when you have to memorize the books of the Bible and you memorize like most of the verses of the Bible, you tend to know a thing or two about Jewish history. And I'm not Jewish myself, but I do find it fascinating because, of course, it was sort of the boot disc for Christianity, and so it's intrinsically tied to the West, and much of the conflict, the global conflict that we are engaged in, is a struggle with a Judeo-Christian Enlightenment value against Eastern collectivist totalitarianism. And there are many in the West who would love to give up the crown jewel of individual liberty that is intrinsically tied to the ideas espoused by Jews and by Christians that built the West. 250 years after the foundations were laid and the shot heard around the world, here in the United States, we still are debating the struggle between East and West, and in many ways on a local level, agrarianism versus industrialism. But we see this played out on the religious front, because on the right, specifically, where a lot of these cultural battles are going on, Bob, many on the right, or who at least consider themselves to be conservatives or on the right, are now questioning the outsized role that they claim that Jews play on politics. Many of these people consider themselves to be what they call libertarians, who think that the best way to reduce big government in their mind is to reduce Jewish influence on our government. I wonder, Bob, how you sort of react. I mean, you claim to be a believer in capitalism and free markets and free thought. Mm-hmm. How have you responded, or how have you felt about the sort of, I guess you could say, resurgence of anti-Semitism on the American right?
Well, okay, so here's what I've found, basically, that by and large, from most of the American right, they've been very supportive of Israel and the Jews. In fact, I'll tell you what, Christian society as a whole have been our biggest supporters, our protectors, and our friends since October 7, 2023. without the Christian influence, we would be in even more trouble than we are right now as far as danger. As far as libertarians go, which I don't consider to be on the right or the left, I'm just so disappointed. I'm beyond disappointed because I always think of libertarians as being thinkers. They think past they're the Henry Hazlitt type of people. They think past the original thing into the deeper consequences. They don't necessarily believe what government puts out there. They don't necessarily believe, sure, they sort of can go toward conspiracy theories sometimes, and sometimes they're correct, because just because it's conspiracy theory doesn't mean it's true.
It doesn't mean it's not true. Absolutely, Bob. Yes, this is not to say that we're, all conspiracy theories are incorrect.
Of course, exactly. However, they have really seemed to dig into every Jewish conspiracy, Israel conspiracy theory, AIPAC conspiracy theory, to say that Donald Trump is controlled by Prime Minister Netanyahu or by the Jews, right, or by whoever. First of all, Donald Trump is not controlled by anyone. He has his own mind. I don't agree with everything he does. I'm a free marketer, so tariffs to me are anathema to free markets and liberty, okay? But he has been a wonderful advocate of Israel and the Jews, but not because he's controlled by anyone. That's a conspiracy theory. It's because that is what he believes. If he didn't believe it, he wouldn't be.
Well, I mean, he may believe it, but honestly, I don't even know if he really believes it, Bob. As much as I think that he thinks that what he does, what he thinks is in America and his own best interest.
Okay, and that's fine too.
Yeah. But I mean, my point in pointing that out is just simply that it is ridiculous to believe that he's controlled by Jews because he's done things like not lower the tariffs on Israel, even though Israel offered to completely drop their tariffs in the United States to zero, and he didn't do it because he seems to be something of an ideologue on that issue, which of course is unfortunate for free marketeers like ourselves. But back in sometime around 2011, 2012, I remember I sat down for dinner with a group of people, self-described libertarians, and I was having this conversation with this young man. I wrote about it. It was called Dinner with a Nazi. And we both agreed that we needed to end the Federal Reserve. My argument was in terms of monetary policy and central banking, and my fascination with the Scottish Enlightenment period and free banking and the Gilded Age. His thing was that the Federal Reserve was run by a cabal of international Jews. So I thought to myself, well, what an oversimplification of the problems that America faces in terms of monetary policy. And I realized I was talking to an idiot, right? Someone who's just smart enough to be able to speak, but just being able to speak is not a sign of intelligence, as Captain Kirk would tell you from episode 7 of season 3 or something like that. I don't know. It's a Star Trek reference. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that we have a problem in conspiratorial thinking that tries to oversimplify extremely complex problems, such as Palestine and Israel, Palestinians versus Israelis, as if everything can be summed up with just, oh, they're killing babies, so they must be the bad guy, they must be wrong, they must be the evil ones. But things really aren't that simple, are they, Bob?
No, not at all. And I've been studying the history of Israel. I've studied it for a long time, but of course, since October 7th, 2023, I really began because I wanted to know. Because in order to have a cogent argument, Austin, as you know, you've got to understand the other side's viewpoint. Doesn't mean you agree with it, of course, but you have to understand it. Because if you don't understand it, you have no place to go in terms of any type of debate or argument. I can't tell you how many, videos I've watched from the Palestinian perspective. And by the way, yes, I'm putting air quotes around Palestinian because that is not an ethnicity. That was developed in 1964 by Yasser Arafat. I don't know who doesn't know this by now, but hopefully most people do. It was Yasser Arafat and apparently his KGB handlers who came up with this as a way to reframe the entire structure of the conflict, okay? Before 1964, Arabs in that area never referred to themselves as Palestinians. Never. They hated that term. In fact, the Jews on their passports were called Palestinians because it was renamed by the Romans after they kicked the Jewish inhabitants out of Judea and Samaria, what now is called the West Bank, and out of Israel. They renamed it Palestine. It has nothing to do with today's modern Palestinians. The Goliath was a
No, I believe you, Bob. And listen, I don't want to relitigate the history of that conflict necessarily, but let me just tell you. Can I tell you where I'm coming from on this one? Because people, they always wonder sort of what your background is, or how do you arrive at these conclusions that you arrived in. I'll tell you mine, and then I'd love to hear yours, right? Because I'm not a Christian, I'm not religious, right? But I am extremely nationalistic for what is best in the best interest of the United States, and I'm extremely anti-authoritarian. And what I find useful in terms of the relationship between Israel and the United States is that Israel very much acts as a seawall or a bulwark against violent Islam, which is committed to the destruction of the West, and which is committed to an authoritarian ideal of a non-separation of church and state, the caliphate, right? They're the problem with Islam is, Jewishness, Judaism and Christianity are compatible with Western ideals of Enlightenment thinking, which is what I adhere to. And I see Israel as much closer to the Enlightenment ideal than anything that any so-called Palestinian would adheres to in terms of their view of church and state. And so for me, this is a question of what is in the best interests of the United States. And I see a friendly relationship, although not one as like a vassal state. I as a libertarian, I don't think the United States should be funding Israel. I think Israel would actually be fine. I think Israel would be better off. I think Israel would be better off if we weren't funding them, to be honest. But my interest is in protecting the citizens of the United States. I'm for America first. But I see Israel as a bulwark against authoritarian ideologies. Plus, the bonus, when you're defending the Jews, you're undermining the fascists. You're undermining National Socialists, right? And I can hate National Socialists just as much as I hate communists because, like Thomas Jefferson, I have sworn eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the minds of man. And when you're defending Jews, you're undermining fascists. And there are a lot of problems. You could say the Jewish community does lean very strongly left, and many communists have a history of interlapping ideas between Judaism and communism in histories past, especially in Russia, like we were talking about. You should be able to criticize Israel. You should be able to disagree with tenets of the Jewish faith. As a secularist, I absolutely do. But still, at the end of the day, you have to have a complex understanding of complex topics. You don't have to be an expert necessarily, but when if you're getting all of your political news and views from Joe Rogan, like guys who get punched in the head for a living or martial arts experts, right? You might be making a few underlying mistakes. And just because Douglas Murray has a British accent and sounds kind of smarmy and sounds kind of smug, doesn't mean that he's wrong. You have to be able to separate men from the message. I like Joe Rogan. He's cool, but I don't listen to the stupid kids when it comes to international foreign policy. So a long way of saying essentially that these things are complex. Bob, I'll give you the floor to respond to that.
First, everything you said is so right on the mark. And I want to apologize for something because I started to get into logic for a moment about history and all that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, it is not about logic. It is about just feeling a certain way. And again, I'm not complaining in terms of saying I'm a victim or anything like that. We have to deal in reality. And the reality is the Jews have pretty much always been a hated people. And the easier one to blame, we're small in number. We've never been the greatest, the physical intimidators and so forth. But that aside, it's all about emotion. And if you want to believe something, Austin, if you want to believe something bad about a group of people, about a country, about whatever, you're going to believe it. Yeah. And the facts don't really matter. And all I ask people to do, especially the libertarians who for so long I've so respected for their ability to think past the surface, I just ask, do your research, and not just from, Joe Rogan or Dave Smith or whoever it happens to be, or Candace Owens or whoever it happens to be. Actually do your research. Look at it from both sides, but check the facts and then come to a conclusion based on logic and libertarian ideals of respect for human rights, for the individual, for autonomy, as opposed to just saying, you know what, it's easier to just
to outsource. Outsource my thinking to someone else. Yes, that's what we've done when it comes to foreign policy in libertarians in the United States. I mean, and thank God we have Argentina and Javier Milei and the libertarian movement. Without him, we would be in deep shit because the libertarian movement in the United States has become so twisted by conspiracy thinking that it's impossible for us to. And you can see the fruits of the results of what we've got, which is basically almost nothing here in the United States. But like, for example, yesterday, when you talk about people like who will find a way to believe what they want to believe, I was talking about how, if we banned everyone from outside the United States from using Twitter, 90% of the fascists would disappear overnight. Because a lot of this, of course, is coming from outside of our country to try and stir up our culture wars. I mean, Russia is famous during the Cold War for trying to get people to hate Martin Luther King Jr. and stirring up conspiracy theories in the United States. The JFK conspiracy, many of the major ones that accuse like the CIA, were actually cooked up right in the KGB. There's a real conspiracy for you, Bob. I don't know.
Well, we've seen that. We've all seen that video, right? Of that guy. I can't remember his name, but he actually took the interviewer and the viewer right through everything they did. Spot on.
Oh, yeah. I highly encourage, if nobody's ever read Gerald Posner's book, Case Closed, fantastic book about the assassination of John F. Kennedy and why it was Oswald from the Third Floor Book Depository, a violent communist who had tried to assassinate someone earlier that year. But again, let's not get off track, because my point with this is, Bob, is to talk about people who will find ways to believe what they want to believe, no matter what the facts say. So I said yesterday on Twitter, if we got rid of everybody outside the United States, most of the fascists would disappear, because most people aren't really like this. It was to suggest that somebody said, well, at least the fascists got the trains running on time. But even that was wrong, because Mussolini took over. The trains were already running on time, and he took credit for something he didn't do. So even the things that the fascists attribute to the good things of fascism were wrong. They were lies. It was all based on lies. Like Hitler, the economy got roaring back when Hitler took over. Well, yeah, it turns out that when you loot all of your neighbors and you loot your own citizens and you nationalize factories and call it privatization, yeah, you can build an economy on theft, but you can't do it for very long, as we saw, right? So central economic planning, central planning, authoritarianism, socialism, whether it's of left variety or right variety, communistic socialism, Leninist socialism, Marxist socialism, or Hitlerian national socialism, it all fails. Does it not? Because just like the communists and their protocols of elders of Zion and the right, Hitler's shrinking markets theory, their retardation and their obsession with Jews and cults and conspiracies, it ultimately was their downfall, was it not?
Well, absolutely it was, because it's not in alignment with human nature. It believes that you can reprogram human beings into being what the person, the leader, wants them to be. And it's sort of amazing to me that after all the many times that socialism and communism has failed, and I mean failed absolutely miserably, and resulting in the horrible starvation and mass murders and gulags and the whole thing, that so many people, especially on the political left, continue to want to bring it back. Oh, well, it wasn't done right. No, actually, it was done exactly as socialism and communism is done. It was done exactly right. It's just that the results are not good for human beings. And if you really, really care about people, you're gonna live in reality and want to be part of a system that creates the environment for people to thrive, both individually and the masses. And the only one that has ever done that is free market capitalism.
Yeah. Oh, Hitler hated the capitalists, right? He saw capitalism as a Jewish invention, which, fascinatingly enough, if you look at the history of modern libertarianism, it was many Jews who pioneered the foundations of modern libertarianism. Consider Ayn Rand, consider Murray Rothbard. Of course, he was an atheist, but so many. I think Ludwig von Mises was, of course, too. Hayek was not. But the fascinating.
I thought Hayek was.
I don't think so. He was an Austrian, but not a Jew. Mises was a Jew, and that's why he had to flee from the United States. And Milton Friedman, another popular Jewish libertarianism. And I listen to Dennis Prager sometimes. I remember him talking about. Why does it seem like there is an outside Jewish influence in intellectual circles? I was reading yesterday about the fact that there's, Jews make up something like 3% of the population, but they're like 30% of the millionaires. And I was trying to learn how to become a millionaire, right? I don't want to be like Kanye. I want to be like the Jews because they know how to handle their money. They know how to take care of things because what it is that they have this concept of generational wealth and generational wisdom that they pass down, which, in some ways, I think that the United States, because of our drift towards socialism, we're not handing down the traditions of capitalism. We're not handing down the traditions of ideological wealth. So there's a lot of jealousy, I have found, towards the Jews, Bob. There's a lot of jealousy because people who have their own mystic visions of the afterlife and of the supernatural and of their views of metaphysics that maybe don't jive with the Jews see them as having outsized roles of influence as public intellectuals, positions of government, central banks, overrepresented. But to draw the line as if it's a cabal instead of consistency in terms of intellectualism and theory that is applied, right, is to really miss the forest for the trees, Bob. And I'll give you the final word on that and take us out as we finish up the show today. And I do want to, of course, give you a chance to share anything that you'd like to share with our audience. Before we let you go, you have the floor, sir.
Well, I think what it really comes down to is just everyone has the right to live their lives and pursue happiness however and in whatever way they see fit, providing they don't infringe upon the rights of anyone else to do the same. And if someone's going to take sides, whether it's politically, whether it's a nation, whether it's what have you, let's look at those who are more apt to promote that type of environment for people to thrive. I've said it on Twitter or X, quite a bit. I thank you, Austin, because you could have easily, had you wanted to just get the big, you've got a big, great audience, but the masses, you could have really gone over to that side of, the Jews this, the Jews that, and not. But you've worked, especially for not being Jewish. You have really worked hard to look at the truth of the issue, and you've taken a lot of flack for it. And I've seen it because I've been following you for years. I'm a huge fan, which I think you already know. But I just want to thank you. And you were talking earlier about eudaimonia and happiness, and I personally define happiness as an ongoing feeling of peace of mind, the result of living congruently with one's values. And you do that. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thanks, Bob.
I invite anyone to visit burg.com if they'd like.
Absolutely. burg.com. Let me make sure I got that right. Say it one more time for our audience.
Yeah, burg.com.
burg.com. We're glad that the internet decided to continue to support us so we could have this great conversation. Looks like the audience really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And yes, Bob, it's, again, it's not about for me being Jewish or defending the Jews. It just so happens that when I chase the facts and I chase the logic, I end up having to defend Jews because typically the people who are opposing them tend to be the central planners, the socialists, the authoritarians, the people who stand against individual liberty, against economic freedom, against our rights. So, I'm in the trenches there with you, Bob, but maybe I just didn't know I was going to end up here somehow, but I'm glad to be fighting on your side, on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. Bob Burg, he is the author of books you can find on Amazon. He sold over 1 million copies of his popular book, The Go-Giver. So check it out over at Amazon.com. Subscribe to his daily impact email at burg.com, burg.com. Thank you, Bob. We appreciate you, and we hope to talk again really soon. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Austin. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let's give it up for Bob Burg. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us this morning, for supporting the Wake Up America show. Y'all are a wonderful audience. I love being with you 5 days a week. The Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. schedule is a great way for us to hang out, catch up, find out what's going on in the day, have some dangerous conversations. Oh, they're trying to censor me for my opinions. Sorry. Stand up for what's right, stand up for what's true, because the tides can change, right? Overnight, people can destroy their credibility, and we may be the masses, the millions, just months from now. It can be that way. If you click the like button, or if you exit through the gift shop at forlibertyshop.com, don't forget to get yourself a delicious box of Founding Flavors coffee. If you go to forlibertyshop.com, you can see all the items there on the desk available for sale, including that Javier Milei. Check it out. We've got this awesome Javier Milei Metal Gear desk mat. People have been buying that, and they've also been going over to forlibertyshop.com and purchasing our Washington Crossing the Delaware. Let's see if we can pull it up. Washington Crossing the Delaware desk mat. I thought this was really awesome. Check this out. If you go to forlibertyshop.com, that's the number 4, libertyshop.com, and you go to Washington. We got so many George Washington products, it's not even funny. Washington, Delaware. There it is. This desk mat just took off. A beautiful desk mat available at forlibertyshop.com. You put your computer on it, put your mice on it. I've got a couple of desk mats here on mine at forlibertyshop.com, and get yourself a Washington Crossing the Delaware desk mat. Make you look awesome either at work or at home at forlibertyshop.com. You'll be supporting the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty. Bring back family business. Well, that's what we're doing here, Joni Rankin. This is a family business. The number 4libertyshop.com on the 4 Liberty Network. Thanks, Joni. Thank you, Quest Fanning. Even the people who disagree with us, if you stuck around and you say to yourself, I don't agree with Austin on some of these things, but if you hung around with us, I got mad respect for you. It's not easy to listen to things you disagree with. Thank you, C. Songaroth. Thank you, JC West. Thank you, Luke Sacker, Relaxing McGroin, Decision Points, Kosher Pink Salt, and so many of our other friends. We'll see you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Last time the government got a new surveillance toy, we got the Patriot Act. This time we're giving it artificial intelligence, with zero oversight and a blank check. What could possibly go wrong? Welcome to the intelligence community's AI revolution, where agencies like the CIA and NSA are racing to build machine learning surveillance systems faster than Congress can schedule a hearing, which frankly isn't saying much. The CIA's new toy is called Osiris, named after the Egyptian god of the underworld. You know, just in case the branding didn't already give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. Osiris is an AI system that scours massive amounts of open source data, social media, articles, random online content, and then helpfully summarizes what it finds. And if that sounds harmless, keep in mind that even the CIA's own tech chief described it as being like a crazy drunk friend. That's a real quote. We've now got drunken robot sidekicks advising one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world. The NSA, of course, isn't sitting this one out. This is the agency that already vacuumed up your phone calls, emails, texts, and your aunt's Facebook memes back in the post-9/11 surveillance boom. Now, they're using AI to do it faster, bigger, and with even less transparency. When civil liberties groups asked what the NSA's AI systems are actually doing, they got stonewalled, which, let's be honest, is kind of their brand. It doesn't stop there. DHS is using AI-enhanced drones at the border. The Defense Intelligence Agency is using AI to flag threats at rates far beyond what human analysts can keep up with. Which sounds cool until you realize the entire intelligence apparatus is now built on machine learning systems we don't understand, can't audit, and aren't allowed to question. And while all this is happening behind the curtain, our elected officials are just now starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, it's not a great idea to feed sensitive data into black box algorithms with no accountability. One congressman even warned federal agencies to stop uploading classified info into public AI tools. Because apparently someone in the Department of Homeland Security thought ChatGPT was a secure place to drop intel. We've seen this story before. The script doesn't change. The government gets a new tool, swears it's just for emergencies, and the next thing you know, it's scanning every American's email inbox for patterns. Remember when the Patriot Act was supposed to only go after terrorists? Yeah. Then it got used to snoop on financial records, drug cases, and petty crimes, all without a warrant. Now we're supercharging that same mentality with AI. Today it's scanning foreign TikToks. Tomorrow, it's predicting pre-criminal behavior based on your grocery store receipts and Spotify playlists. Sound crazy? It should. But it's not that far-fetched when the algorithms are trained on massive data sets and nobody's allowed to question the results. And if you get flagged, good luck. You won't get a phone call. You'll just start noticing odd things. Your flights get delayed. You get pulled aside at TSA. Your bank flags your purchases. No one can quite say why, because even the people running these systems don't fully understand how the AI came to its conclusion. It's like being placed on a secret no-fly list created by a caffeinated Roomba. Meanwhile, the public is left in the dark. No hearings, no disclosures, no debates. Just press releases about responsible innovation and ethical frameworks, all while these agencies strap artificial intelligence onto surveillance networks the size of continents. Let's be real. There are legitimate uses for AI. Nobody's arguing that we shouldn't use technology to help track down actual threats. But when you give the government a powerful tool with no leash, history shows us exactly what they'll do with it. They'll point it inward. We've gone from "in God we trust" to "in algorithms we obey." And the scary part is the algorithm never has to testify. So yeah, maybe it's time to take a breath before we let a neural network with clearance levels start predicting who's a dissident based on search history and sarcasm levels on Twitter. Thanks for watching. If you like the kind of commentary that actually pushes back on this government tech creep with a little common sense and a whole lot of fire, check out what we've got going on at forlibertyshop.com. We've got merch that stands for freedom, mocks surveillance state nonsense, and helps fund content that doesn't ask permission to speak plainly. That's forlibertyshop.com, because the only thing faster than government AI overreach should be your shipping confirmation. See you next time.